Again, welcome. Sorry. We have a schedule today. I'm going to start with a short introduction, and after that we have a first block which is about EIT Health, where we have two speakers, Per Hu from EIT Health in Scandinavia and Copenhagen, and Caroline Tsai from Paris. And then we have a short break, and after that we're going to dig into the Horizon Europe, and we have two speakers there, Nadine Schweitzer from Vinnova, who's a national contact point for the program, and also Caroline Donnerin from RISE. And then I'm going to try and wrap it up, and we'll have some Q&A in the end and a short summary. So that's our schedule for today. But I'm going to start with a short introduction about Medtech for Health before we go to our speakers. Again, my name is Henrik Minderal. I'm the program contact in Western Sweden for Medtech for Health. So what is Medtech for Health? I apologize, this is in Swedish, but we didn't have, because we didn't have it in English at today, the latest presentation. Anyway, Medtech for Health is one of 17 Swedish strategic innovation programs that are financed partly by Vinnova, Energimyndigheten, and Formas. And there are two programs within healthcare or life science, which is Medtech for Health and SweLife. But Medtech for Health is, as the name reveals, is only focused on medtech or biomedical engineering. And as I said, it's a national program, so we have nodes all over Sweden, and I'm representing West Sweden, where we have contact people and the people working with the program. And the purpose of the program is really to make a difference, to improve Swedish healthcare, to improve the innovation system, and to give a boost to the Swedish export industry in medtech. And one key ingredients in the program is collaboration. So we want to collaborate between healthcare providers, academia, and industry and patients. We work with basically three different tools in our toolbox. We have calls. We have 3 calls. I'll get back to them later. And we have what we call strategic project support. And one of the projects is internationalization. And this seminar is part of that project. And then we also work with improving knowledge and awareness about medtech and its key role in healthcare and the Swedish society. This is kind of a busy slide, but again, I've already mentioned that we have a national program and our different activities. Here is a list of the strategic projects, the main strategic projects. I'm not going to go into details about these, but the one that we're involved in today is the internationalization. I'm going to say a few words about the goals of the entire program, and we have 4 main overall goals for the program. And the first one is to actually see to it that more medtech innovations are actually implemented in the healthcare and used in healthcare and care environments. And then it's important also, number 2, to increase the awareness and knowledge about the benefits of medtech and biomedical engineering. And we also want to see as a third goal an increased internationalization. That means increased export of Swedish products, but also increased international financing. And the fourth and last is that we want to, the Swedish medtech companies that start and grow in Sweden, we want them to stay and continue to grow in Sweden on the Swedish market. So those are the 4 main objectives of the program. And as I said, we're all over the country. We have 6 healthcare regions in Sweden, and all of them are represented in the program. I'm in Western Sweden, Henrik, that's me. And in Umeå, we have the north, and in Uppsala, Örebro, sort of mid-Sweden, and then Stockholm, and southeast in Linköping, and in south in Lund. And if you go to the medtechforhealth.se website and go to contacts, you will get names and contacts information about these persons. And then we also have 2 national nodes, which is the industry organization Swedish Medtech, which is based in Stockholm, and RISE, the Research Institute of Sweden, who is also part of the program. And again, you can find these contact people at the site. A few words about the 3 calls that we have. The largest calls, which is that we implement together with SweLife, the other strategic innovation program. The target applicants are anyone involved in a new medtech solution or healthcare solutions. It could be people employed by the healthcare itself, by hospitals, doctors and nurses, etc. Academic researchers and researchers at institutes, and of course companies. And you can apply. When you apply, you have to be at least 2 of these type of applicants involved in the constellation of the project. And the purpose is to develop a solution that will actually improve health and well-being among the population. And it should contribute to sustainable growth of the life science industry in Sweden, and also increase the international competitiveness of the Swedish industry. This call is not open yet. It will open after the summer. I don't think it's decided on the date yet, but if you subscribe to our newsletter, you will get information in due time. And you can also visit the website from time to time. The actual information or where you apply is on Vinnova's website. So you go to Vinnova and search for this call and get the information and apply. The next one is, we call it a kind of competence boost in SMEs. It's a kind of a call where you can actually finance an external expert, an external competence that you need in order to move your project, your product and company forward. It could be a regulatory expert, it could be a medical expert, it could be an academic expert in something, whatever you need to do to bring in this competence into the company and to improve your competitiveness. And this, you can apply up to 200,000 Swedish crowns to finance this type of competence boost. And this is actually open now. It's open during the entire year, and you can apply several times a year and get funding. So I suggest that you go on to the website of Medtech for Health or Vinnova and look at the more details about the call. And the third call is innovators in healthcare. And this is targeted to employees within hospitals or care organizations that actually want to work with a new medtech solution, either developing it or implementing it into the organization. And this call hasn't been open yet, will probably open before the summer. And you can apply up to 1 million crowns to do this project. And again, it's for people employed by the healthcare and care sector. So that was a quick overview of Medtech for Health. And if you want more information, go to our website and subscribe to our newsletter, and you can find our contact details there as well. So let's move on to the program. So we start with EIT Health, and I welcome Per Ho, who's working with entrepreneurship lead at EIT Health Scandinavia in Copenhagen. So I'm going to stop share, and you can share your presentation, Per. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Henrik. I'm very pleased to hear that we have very, very overlapping ambitions and even programs. So I think this screams for a more tight collaboration going into the future. Can you see my screen here?
Yes, but it's not the
it's
presentation format.
Mode.
Yeah,
but this should do.
Yeah, now it's okay. Yeah, that's
okay.
Great.
Okay, thanks, Henrik. Thanks, Mona, for the invitation and the presentation of Medtech for Health. It was very interesting. I am representing EIT Health, and I will just briefly mention what EIT Health is. Best described as a networking, funding, and collaboration community. We have 8 regional innovation hubs dispersed all over Europe, with a central office in Munich, and we are co-funded by EU through partnership fees and partly through our programs as well. So we have plus 150 paying partners coming from all over academia, industry, regions, healthcare payers, hospitals, and so this is a very vibrant community. We often say that we are probably the largest life science network in the world, at least in Europe we are. We have some particular focus areas: the growing population, healthy living. We also see an increase in infectious diseases. The pandemic is an obvious case, but also antimicrobial resistance. And then we also have a focus on chronic diseases, diabetes, certain heart conditions, and obesity. We have also been witnessing that expenditures in healthcare is on the rise due to an increase in expected longevity, and we are focused very much on high-value care or value-based healthcare. And finally, we are also focused on prevention, personalized medicine, and digitalization within the areas of digital health, medtech, and biotech, where biotech does not include therapeutics. We are addressing these focus areas through 3 categories of programs. And I'm focusing mostly on accelerator programs today, which is targeting SMEs. But we also have education programs and innovation programs. And there are some examples of what those programs can be. In Accelerator, we have what we call access to knowledge, access to stakeholders, access to market, and access to finance. And in education, we train students, academia, but also industry in entrepreneurial skills. And in innovation, we are focused more on larger projects that are dealing with European or even global problems within healthcare. And for example, high value care is one thing, but also the fast track reimbursement model that we all right. And European health data space, we see great potential there. And I will actually now focus a little bit on the accelerator programs, but since most of our accelerator calls have closed for this year, then I won't go into details with our programs because we have many programs. But just to summarize what I was just mentioning, we have 4 categories of programs: access to knowledge, access to stakeholders, access to market, and access to finance. And they are basically related to the maturity level of your company. So if it's a very early stage company, you might find programs within Access to Knowledge suitable for you. Or if you are a more mature company looking for seed up to series A, B, C, D, you might want to talk to Caroline Sy, who's coming after me, or you want to go to the Venture Center of Excellence. But it's more or less related to the maturity level of your company. I will, however, give a few examples now of programs that could be relevant, but bear in mind that most programs now are closed. But keep an eye on our webpage, because programs will also be launched during the year that are not in our business plan, but more established ad hoc and then announced, and often with a short notice. So, but let me give you some examples. We have, for example, a patient innovation bootcamp, where a technology or a product or an innovation is typically developed by a patient who has seen a certain need, and then together with a caregiver, they have developed some kind of, in this case, an artificial hand, sensory hand, and you want to test or validate this innovation and find out whether there's any commercial perspectives in it. So in this case, this program will be good. It's short, it's intense, but it will give you hands-on experience or teach you how to go to the next level. And then we also have a focus on increasing the number of females in life science. So this program will be good for founding females within biotech, digital health, or medtech. And this is also a relatively short but very intense program where you get the opportunities to meet mentors and experts within your field in order to take you to the next level. And the final Access to Knowledge program I will talk about is the Mentoring and Coaching Network that Henrik was also talking about, that you, as an early stage company or even late stage, in this case, there's actually no requirement for maturity level, but common to startups is that they might have specific issues relating to the regulatory path, to the clinical development, or even business development. And the more specific you are, the more likely it is that this program will be of help to you. You will be hooked up with experts within your specific need, and then they will help you to overcome that barrier or obstacle, so you can take the company to the next level. Then I have an Access to Market program that I also want to promote, because we have several programs that are maybe not similar to this, but in a way, the Swedish French Accelerator program, for example, that I talked about in the beginning of this meeting, is an example of an individualized deep dive into a company which will clearly set the path for expansion into a new market. So this Bridgehead program is targeting companies that already have a product on the market generating revenue in their home market, but wish to expand into another market. So this program will actually hook you up with experts and mentors in that country you want to enter. And they will then pave the way and introduce you to partners, authorities, whatever is needed for in your specific case to penetrate that market. So that's one of our flagship programs. Then I would like to summarize. I mean, we have many programs, and the best thing you can do is probably check the website for updates or subscribe to our newsletter. But in addition to the funding and support that I have just described, that we have categorized into these 4 groups, we also have the network that I was talking about before. And our network consists of partners, and we have 150 plus of them. But then the network actually goes beyond that, because our partners also have a network. So that means that we can capitalize on utilizing this network for a variety of opportunities. We have recently had an organizational transformation within EIT Health and established a more regional focus. We have created ecosystem leads, for example. I'm one of them. I'm an entrepreneurship lead. We also have collaboration leads, communication leads, and so on. All with the intention of focusing more on strengthening the regional ecosystem. So we are now in a position where we can interact more freely with our surroundings. Medtech for Health could be one example, an obvious example. And what we can do, I have just listed 6 things that we could do, but that's just not to make the slide too busy. But we can brand and make you more visible to our community. And we can also introduce you to potential partners and business opportunities. If we get to know your company through a phone call, we can introduce you to all the funding opportunities, or evaluate together with you what might be the next steps in terms of financing rounds, or whatever you want, development of a business plan or a clinical plan. We can also help you shape contents of proposals and perform targeted matchmaking. So the opportunities are plentiful, and I suggest that you give me a call or send me a mail if you're interested, and then we can decide, what would be the best opportunity for you and your company at the stage it's in. And finally, I forgot. It was just to illustrate the network, how it grows. Finally, I would like to advertise for the matchmaking event in Barcelona next week. I know it's with a very short notice, but this matchmaking event is special this year because it actually invites partners of EIT Health, including startups or anyone who's interested from our ecosystem, to take part in shaping EIT Health into the future, with a focus on program content. So this is a good way of having an influence on EIT Health, the future programs, but also to interact with our partners, get to know our community, get introduced, and get some visibility. So I would, if you have a chance, to go there. If you don't, then there's another opportunity in May. That's the summit. That's a yearly summit. It's physical this time, although it will be recorded, or many of the sessions will be recorded. There you can also go and meet our community and take part in this 2-day event, which is focused on where healthcare is going, and the whole healthcare system is going in view of the pandemic situation we have just been in. So please have a look on our homepage and see if that could be of interest to you. And then finally, here's some contact information. If you want to get in touch and hear more about programs or other opportunities, then please don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Per. Very interesting presentation. There's a lot to be, that you should look at and see what would fit your company and your organization. So our next presenter from EIT Health is Caroline Say from Paris. She's the operation manager of Only Santé Business Angels. And I'll give the floor to you, Caroline. You're still muted.
Muted. Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be there with you virtually in Sweden. I'm based in Paris, and I will share my screen with you now. So indeed, as Per mentioned, he talked about EIT Health and their partners. I work for a partner of EIT Health called the Investor Network, called Angel Santé. Sorry, I'm trying to get my my thing to be in full screen. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. So indeed, I work for Angel Santé, which is a partner of EIT Health France. We are the largest business angel network in Europe dedicated to healthcare, and I am the head of operations. And we manage with EIT Health, the EIT Health Investor Network, which is one of the access to finance program mentioned by Ert, which was created about 4 years ago to facilitate and boost fundraising across Europe. Europe, we know, is one market, so there's a lot of movement of people, of goods, of innovation, and we saw with EIT Health and European programs that finance innovation programs across Europe. That's great. But when it comes to healthcare and healthcare startups, it's a little bit more complex than one global market because of the reimbursements, the national healthcare systems. And I think in Sweden, it's particularly complex because you have regional reimbursement schemes, which makes it even more difficult for healthcare startups to grow and scale up in these markets. And then one of the issues, obviously, in Europe to scale up when you're a startup is to raise the funds you need, right? Even though everybody tells you that there are loads of money on the market today. And it's true. In the 2021 was a record market for global health tech investment. More than 62 billion euros were raised. So you think, okay, there shouldn't be that big of a problem. But if you take a closer look at where the money was spent, it was 41% was spent on mega deals. So deals above 100 million euros. So what we've seen in the past years is that there's more money, but injected in bigger deals. And the blue box, where most of us are, the small ones, the small pre-seed, seed, Series A, or even small Series B, is getting smaller. And this is true in health tech. It's also true in biotech. And if we take a closer look at Europe, it's a tiny little bit better with the blue boxes. Same thing, you know, very hefty investments in healthcare. But again, the mega deals are just incredibly present when it comes to investment. So why is it such an issue to raise funds cross-border? And you need to raise funds cross-border because most regions have a limited number of VCs that will be able to take you to the next funding round. And when you know that about, and this is agnostic in sectors, but about 33% of startups are able to go from seed to Series A. The rest have issues funding their projects, have issues going to clinical trials and making it to the market. In Europe, in healthcare, there's about 450 deals a year from, let's say, 1 to 6 million euros. This is where probably most of you are. And only 35% of these investors are foreign. And when we talk about angels, that's only 10% that actually go out and invest in cross-border deals. And the reason is mainly a lack of cultural, legal, and business knowledge. I've had big VCs in Paris telling me, when I was talking about Swedish companies, for example, telling me, oh, I would never invest in Sweden because I don't know the culture, you know. And then there's also a lack of network. People that invest really want to have, let's say, a lead investor or a co-lead that is a local person so that they feel more comfortable investing. So all in all, it's all a question of lack of trust. And then of course, we've got fiscal issues that make it more interesting for a lot of countries like the UK, for example, to invest in their own country. And then there's the LP situation, the limited partners of funds that are usually public or semi-public institutions that impose a national investment thesis. And then if we go beyond that level of trust, then we've got another challenge, which is the funnel, right? You've got investors that only invest in certain countries that we mentioned, others only at certain stage of developments. You've got VC funds, and this is really important, that are coming to the end of their fund and they're looking to raise. And you cannot imagine the number of funds that come to me also because they're looking for funds of funds. And also, you know, there's an issue with the valuation, and then some of them only do therapeutics, only do hardware. So by the time we get to the end of the funnel, it's only a happy few that will invest in your company. And as such, you need to widen the geographical scope. But there is one thing we know, and this has been shown by studies, is that the further out you go for the money, the more trust you need to inspire. So trust is a major issue for cross-border investment. And we know that 81% of deals are usually done through referrals. And this is what EIT Health and Angel Santé understood, you know, nearly 4 years ago, when we launched the investor network, which is part of the accelerator pillar that Per mentioned. And just a side note, we are open all year long, unlike other projects. We've got a short stop in the summer, but we know that when you're raising funds, you need those funds as app. So we definitely cannot have specific calls. We need to just, you know, take your applications along the way. So we've grown very much into a unique network where we bring trust, networks, and connections. So we're really the link between the healthcare investors that we have and the startups in healthcare. What we do here is make sure that we open all the doors and the windows that can be opened for your startup, and to make sure that the right investors take a look at you. Our investing members are mainly VCs. 60% of our members are VCs, 20% are corporate VCs that are coming in earlier and earlier, and family offices. And now we've only got 20% of angels, even though I have access to both Federation of Angels. I sit on the board of IBAN. But again, those are interesting for national deals, and that's why they're kept to a minimum. So we covered 21 countries today, from Bulgaria to Japan. We've got the US as well, Canada, Israel, and then of course the core of our investors are in Europe, and quite a number as well in the Nordics. We've got a wider circle on the outside, which are friends of the network, about 100 investors that I can tap into for very specific deals. Let's say we have a Medtech cardio class 3 implant. I have very specific cardio investors in the US, in Israel, or Europe that I can tap into. And then very much like MCN that was presented, we also have mentors and evaluators across 6 countries that can also assist us in evaluating the companies coming in and helping them grow as well when needed. This is just a quick look of the investors or VCs that we have in our network in all these countries. So in the Nordics, we do have Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and a few connections in Norway, but Norway, I don't think, Norway is not, I don't think, part of the EIT. But
Oh, it is.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, but we're happy to have companies joining as well from Norway. So just to give you a quick run about what we've done since we've started, we've done about 250 events, pitches with investors to bring startups in front of the investors, with a bit more than 500 deep dives with investors. We do, mentoring workshops for the startups that join us, and we've done about 36 million euros raised with about 13 deals. What kind of deals do we like to do? So we take, of course, seed stage companies that are raising a minimum of 1 million. This is just an example of a company that came to us, did his seed stage with us, and then was seen and looked at by his Series A investor. So he went on to do a Series A with a German investor that found him on our platform. Another one, this is really in our DNA, is the type we love, is the real cross-border multi investors. This was a deal across Belgium, France, Israel, and Italy, with a family office, an angel network, and 2 VCs. So this is exactly what we love to do. Don't hesitate to contact me after this to ask for our checklist. But what we're looking for are companies that have raised a minimum of 500 in dilutive or non-dilutive funding. Why? Again, bringing back to the trust issue, to go and convince foreign investors to invest in your company, you need to show that you've been able to convince your national investors, whether they be public or private, to put money in your company. So that would probably be the first step I would advise, is go and convince your national or maybe regional investors. I know in the Nordics, you're very connected, whether you are in Sweden or Denmark or in Finland, you have investors that do only Nordic investments. So have a look at those before you go out and try to contact Dutch, German, or French investors. And so we help you raise anywhere from 1 to 6 million. Obviously, we have companies that go a little bit further, but they raise in tranches, so that's fine as well. Obviously, we have an application, then you need to go through our evaluation, because we can only present the best in class to our investors, and that's why the investors trust us and they take a look at the companies, because we only bring to their attention in a forceful manner the gold category, which are the top category. That's about 25% of our applicants get into the gold category. 25% get into the silver category. Both are in the network, but the silver categories, we ask them to do a bit of homework before we can show them to the category, to the investors. As for the bronze, they're not quite there yet, but with a little bit more homework, they can come back to us and be evaluated once for free to see if they can get in. A quick look at the process. So we have an application, then there is an application payment to pay for our experts, because every single startup is evaluated by 2 healthcare investors across Europe. So we always do a binational team to give you 2 perspectives, and to have you go into one of the categories. If you are a gold, then I push you towards very specific investors. We organize a pitch session for the ones who are interested. Then we do the follow-up. You get into discussions with them. And when we have a small group of interested investors, we can activate a syndication up to a deal. Why do the investors come? We absolutely have really not a lot of issues getting investors to join us, even the ones who have a very
So Caroline, we lost you.
But maybe, Henrik, we can take a break now and maybe some questions and finalize.
Yeah, we could do that. That's unfortunate that she just disappeared, but I assume it's 10 to 10, and it's time to move on to the next block, which is about Horizon Europe. And I'm going to give the floor to our next presenter, Nadine Schweitzer from Vinnova, who's the national contact point. Nadine, welcome.
Thank you very much. And I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I will share my screen so you can see my presentation as well. Now, does this look good? Do you see presenter's view?
Yes, it's great.
Lovely. So thank you for inviting me here digitally, and I'm happy to meet you all digitally. Actually, I would like to start with you. You're much more important in this context than I am. So if you like, just write in the chat in 1 or 3 words what you work with, so we all get to know each other a little better. I cannot see the chat at the moment, so maybe one of you who can see wants to read out a few examples to me once they're coming in. I think we give that a minute or so. In the meanwhile, what you're seeing here, I think I can open the chat. Does that chat window now comprise your view and the presentation?
No, I have one.
Okay, lovely.
One submission, biomaterial bone glue.
Ah, yeah, okay. One person, cancer diagnostics, lovely. As I said, we'll give that a minute or two so you can write yourself. In the meanwhile, what you see here is actually the rough definition of the areas Medtech comprises, as it's stated on the Medtech Europe homepage. So that's your industry organization in Europe. And we'll see, maybe we cover this whole list today. I'm also putting this here because you will recognize those keywords rather when we come to the program content. You will rarely see more specific requests in call texts, but be confident that they're very much calling for you when they write anything like prevention, diagnosis, monitoring, treatment, care, patient empowerment, or self-monitoring. So, we see a third one, mechanical prevention of blood clotting, sensors for prostate cancer. Yeah, I think we're already covering a substantial part of this list. So from there, I will jump in. Feel free and write more, because this is also so you get to know each other. Thank you for introducing yourselves as we go. And now I will do so too. As said by Henrik, my name is Nadine Schweitzer, and I'm the national contact point for Sweden for Horizon Europe Cluster 1 Health. And I'm really happy to speak after my international colleagues from EIT Health and the Investor Network. This is really the synergy we want, networks, investment, and innovation funding. Horizon Europe can exactly be that type of non-dilutive, trust-generating funding that can elevate your company out of the mass in the eyes of future investors. So Horizon Europe has plenty of possibilities to collaborate, and some of you may have considerable experience also in various contexts. So for those of you who are familiar with the framework program, please bear with me through the basic part in favor of those who have not explored the options yet. There are a lot of different thematic and bottom-up opportunities available. But for the purpose of this meeting, actually, I was asked to focus on the health cluster. So I will give you a short glimpse of the contents and framework of the health cluster, and also a related European partnership much relevant for the Medtech sector, which is called Innovative Health Initiative. You will see a couple of busy slides. Don't worry about that. That's just because I want you to have the information and links available afterwards. So now you can just sit back and listen. So Horizon Europe, at its basic meaning, is actually a political instrument where research and innovation are the means by which political priorities that the member states and the union together have set out can be achieved. So this is a good thing to keep in mind when you're writing your proposal, and it's also probably good to have a look at the priorities that Horizon Europe has set out, because this can create a good basis for you to write the proposal on. I see Carolina is nodding. We are very much on the same page here. And please feel free to ask me or her anything around this if those questions turn up. So projects funded under Horizon Europe and Cluster Health are expected to strengthen Europe's knowledge and technological base. And this is meant to be achieved by improving our understanding of health and disease, by developing innovative methodological and technological solutions to better manage health and disease, by fostering digital transformation, so very much a part of what you're doing on an everyday basis, and by delivering integrated, person-centered and equitable health care. Second, Cluster Health will also support the productivity and the sustainability of Europe's health-related industries, and there is a specific focus on SMEs. And furthermore, projects under Cluster Health will deliver on citizen priorities by making innovative, high-quality health technologies and healthcare available and affordable for citizens, by rendering health and care systems accessible and sustainable, including through the digital transformation, and people should be assisted in promoting their own health and preventing diseases. So I think many of you just recognize themselves and their work straight away in these priorities, I think. So to turn this vision into reality, Horizon Europe comprises a couple of different instruments that you can see here. They're organized in 3 pillars. And pillar 1, excellent science, contains much of the bottom-up funding for individual researchers and possibilities for mobility, and also the use of research infrastructures. So I think the latter 2 are also interesting for you today. Pillar 2, this is where we're going to be very much today, is the global challenges and industrial competitiveness. And it contains calls and topics for consortia that are aimed at potential solutions for well-defined problems. So these calls are very descriptive. And usually the minimum requirements for such consortiums are 3 independent partners in 3 EU member states or associated countries. And I think, for instance, EIT Health also is a very good platform to get in touch with those potential partners, especially the meetings also they've said, they've mentioned here today, join in May, for instance, in Stockholm. That's close to home, and it should be a fantastic opportunity. So Pillar 2 also contains other instruments like missions and partnerships, and we'll look at one of the partnerships today. And finally, Pillar 3, Innovative Europe, contains financial opportunities for small and medium-sized enterprises. So Pillar 3 mainly comprises bottom-up calls, but there are also some thematic calls, and especially under Pathfinder Challenge, there are thematic calls with a life science focus, where you also can find very good opportunities for Medtech applications. Now, if we zoom in onto the cluster itself, the cluster has 6 headlines or so-called destinations, under which they group the calls you can apply to. You see them here. And of those, destination 1 addresses how we can live longer and in better health. It comprises topics addressing health literacy, the impact of lifestyles on health, for instance, obesity, chronic inflammation. I saw somebody working with blood clotting, so very interesting in that context. Mental health as well, patient empowerment, and preventive measures. Destination 2 is tightly coupled to the European Green Deal and aims to understand environmental and occupational and socioeconomic risk factors. This addresses subjects such as pollution, urbanization, social inequalities. I think somebody was working on wearables, so this is probably an interesting destination for you as well, though it stands a bit out. Destination 3 aims to understand the mechanisms of infectious diseases, poverty-related and neglected diseases, non-communicable and rare diseases, so the whole spectrum. And it foresees projects for better preparedness to manage epidemic outbreaks as well, and also curbing antimicrobial resistance. I try to read the chat a little bit as we go, so I will relate to you when I see you here on the side. Destination 4, topics under destination 4 address equal access to innovative, sustainable, and high-quality healthcare, as well as the implementation of safe, cost-effective, and people-centered solutions into our healthcare systems. So this is actually an opportunity where you can go with your projects the whole way and also stake out how your solution will be taken up into the healthcare system. So it's very interesting to become part of such a consortium. Destination 5 foresees projects developing new technologies and digital tools, including their inclusive, secure, and integrity-aware integration into our health and care system. So just like Destination 4, very interesting for you to be part of. And the destination also addresses issues such as real-world data, including synthetic data or modeling, which might also be of interest for some of you. Destination 6 foresees projects to improve the uptake of breakthrough technologies and innovations to make our healthcare systems sustainable and globally competitive, and also make the industry itself globally competitive. So this includes technology development in the areas of cybersecurity, connectivity, and shared data formats, as well as informed policy making. So I think in that sense, the solution itself will more be a use case, for instance. So deadlines for the current topics are actually approaching today. So for the two-stage calls, you will see there are some additional deadlines in September, but those are only for applicants who have successfully applied at the first stage, and this was in February. So there's a little bit of a waiting time for those topics, but the coming work program, the calls and topics for 23-24 are in preparation. The first discussions are ongoing from now on until October, basically, and then hopefully the work program will be adopted somewhere around November, December, so in the end of the year, and you can see new topics by then. But just to also open up some possibilities that are actually available right now, we will have a look at the Innovative Health Initiative, and it's called a joint undertaking. That's another word for a partnership of a certain type. So this is a partnership between the EU and industry, and industry is represented by industry associations that are representing the biopharmaceutical, biotechnology, digital health, and medical technology sectors. And you can see here who's who, the different industry organizations, COSIR representing the medical imaging, radiotherapy, health ICT, and electromedical industries, FBIA, including the specialized group for vaccines under FBIA, Vaccines Europe, representing the pharmaceutical industry and vaccine industry, Europa Bio, representing the biotechnology industry, and Medtech Europe, representing the medical technology industry, so all of you here. But also the Innovative Health Initiative covers, for instance, enabling electronic components. Excuse my voice, I've been speaking a lot, so now it sometimes breaks. And also the establishment of pilot production lines for smart medical devices and implants. So even if you're working in this type of industry, there are options for you here, or this is an interesting way to pair up with other partners. Because you will have to work with other partners in these calls. Here, I'm just trying to show you a little bit how this works when you apply. You as SMEs can participate in the Innovative Health Initiative by applying to the calls for proposals that will be offered by the partnership about once or twice a year. And the calls will be open and competitive, and they require, as said, that you apply as a consortium. The consortium partners can be SMEs, but they can also come from universities, research centers, patient organizations, regulators, for you importantly, health technology assessment bodies, or other organization types. So team up with whom you think it's the best way to team up and fulfill the project goals. You and your consortium will apply in open competition, and once your project is approved, you will receive funding from the European Commission for your proposed work, and you will work together with the industry consortium, the so-called pre-identified industry consortium, who will contribute resources, for instance, in kind or in cash, meaning they will contribute with, for instance, personnel, laboratories, data, compounds, or with money. So you will work together with pre-identified partners, and this is also explained more in detail in the call drafts. Now, what are these calls? Since yesterday, actually, there are drafts published on the IHI website, so you can actually read each topic already, but mind that they can be subject to change until the final version is published, which will be around June. Topics can also be removed until then. However, the drafts will allow you to see already now what to expect, and it's those ones that you can see here. So for instance, decision support systems for patients with neurodegenerative diseases. There are options for imaging in cancer, personalized oncology, integration of heterogeneous health data, also cardiovascular diseases. I think several of you are working in that field. And also one which aims to make the uptake of solutions smoother. It's called early feasibility studies for clinical and innovation excellence. So this might be a little bit the odd one out for you. But as said, down here you have the link, so you can actually read all these call texts already. Now you're not thrown back to just read the call text and then hopefully everything will fall into place. There are actually resources you can use. We've pointed out some of them. And also there will be a dedicated information meeting on IHI that's held by Vinnova that will be on 24th of May. And you will have the chance to a Q&A session with the executive director of IHI, who will be present. And you will also be able to speak with IMI participants. They will share their experience in a presentation and they will answer to questions. And here you have the link. If you want to join that meeting, you can do so in place at the Vinnova office or digitally. And also, as mentioned earlier, teaming up with partners is not always easy, but there are also brokerage events. And I highly encourage you to take part in the IHI hybrid brokerage event that will be held on the 14th of June. It will also be a hybrid event. You can join in Brussels in place if you want to mingle as well, or you can join digitally. IHI will present the content of the calls and also the rules for participation. And then the second part of the event will be a matchmaking event. So this is right towards the release of the first calls. So use the opportunity. Then a little bit, there is support for you available. The support is available for you, for instance, through Medtech for Health. This is also available through us, NCPs. And I'm here just representing all of my colleagues. I'm from Vinnova, but we represent the different agencies in Sweden, and please feel free to get in touch with us. We can answer questions on Horizon Europe. We can help you find matching calls and topics. We also have 2 colleagues who are specialized in legal and financial advice that they can provide both before projects start, but also afterwards once your project is running. We also have strategic discussions, and we are in close contact with the Commission through our different networks. So please feel free to get in touch if you wonder something. The rest of the presentation contains useful links for you that you can have a look at, and contact details. And with this, I would like to close and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Nadine. It's really a lot to digest with when it comes to EU applications and calls, but we're really happy that you're providing support. So the next speaker is Caroline Donnerin from RISE. She's going to present about the SME support. So welcome. The floor is yours, Caroline.
Thank you, Henrik, and thank you, Nadine. That was a great presentation of the opportunities in Horizon. Let me see if I can share my screen. There, do you see the presentation now?
Yes, but not in presentation mode, so. Yeah.
Excellent.
Great.
Okay, thank you. So as Nadine briefly mentioned, there's a lot of support available for you companies who would like to apply for soft funding for your product development, and also for you to reach closer to the markets globally that you're in. I work for RISE, Research Institutes of Sweden, which you probably all know about. We are government funded research institute, and one of our missions is to support SMEs. And with that, I'm proud, and we're proud at RISE to be the coordinators of the subsidized support. So today I'll talk you through a little bit about what this support is, what you can get from us, and also I will dive a little bit into Eurostars and EIC Accelerator, because I think those calls may be particularly of interest to you as a complement of those that have already been described. So EU SME support is a national subsidized service, and we have actually been around for about 10 years now, previously funded as a project and since recently funded as a procured service. And the support is funded by Tillväxtverket and Vinnova, and since recently also Energimyndigheten. And we have advisors all across Sweden, and also now since recently a lot virtually through digital meetings. And most of us have expertise within soft funding, but also within innovation, R&D, investment, and business development. And my background particularly is within business development and innovations in relation to digital and e-health. The objective also, why we exist, is to increase the number of successful applications for soft funding. So our role is mainly to inform about the opportunities, but also to be a hands-on support for any companies that would like to apply for funding, but also that need support during a project or after a project. We particularly focus on funding which is targeting SMEs, and thereby the funding in the European Innovation Council, which Nadine briefly mentioned in Pillar 3. And we also support Eurostars applications. For both EIC and Eurostars, Vinnova is the national point. Above that, we also since recently support the Innovation Fund, where Energimyndigheten is the national contact point. And we have some collaboration with EIT. And for example, I have dialogues with PAR with regards to specific companies. And the EIT has also since recently in Scandinavia run a pilot to support EIC applications. And you can see from recent policy from the EIC that there is a merging of those two networks, if you like, to together support EU SMEs. For some of these calls, there is a requirement to have an international partner. And when it is difficult to find a partner, as Nadine mentioned, and PAD also, both EIT and Vinnova support with various matchmakings. And we also have a subsidized support to help partners through Enterprise Europe network that we work with quite closely in EU SME support. And this network is coordinated in Sweden by Tillväxtverket, and via this we can reach innovation clusters and other entities in 60+ countries, that is within EU and also beyond, for example, Korea, Canada, China, where we can link companies to partners for these kind of projects, which require EU funding, but also for business collaborations. So that may be useful to know for those of you who struggle to find a partner. So the services that we have within the ESME network, as I said before, span from before applying, when a company is not sure what kind of funding is available and they contact us. We would like you all companies to contact us predominantly via the EUSME.se website so that we follow GDPR requirements and register you via that process. And through that, you get within 48 hours a contact with an advisor who can help you with general questions in terms of how to find what type of funding that would be suitable for the various projects that you're considering, but also specific answers regarding applications that you are preparing. And that may be about the scope, about the evaluation, but it could also be more technical. You know, I have problems with the portal, for example, or I'd like some advice about how to scope the budget. We also run various workshops specifically focusing on writing applications, where we go through now, typically in a digital format, we go through how to apply, what to think about. We try and raise tips and raise issues that we know other applicants have had before submitting their application. We also, for those companies that need to pitch in relation to an application, for example, with Eic Accelerator, we help with pitch workshops. And also, if you'd like to just practice a pitch, you can contact us and we can set something up so you have the opportunity to test that with us and get some feedback. And as said before, we do partner searches, we do application feedback as well. So if you've already put together an application and you would like another opinion on it, you can send it to us and we will provide you with the feedback. And then we also help you once you have received the grant and started the project, if you have any queries in relation to reporting or auditing. We would also like to raise that even if many of you consider already work with consultants to write your applications, which is fairly common, and in those instances we do not have a problem to support you anyway. We are there to help you secure this funding, and all we ask for is that any contact that you have with us is directly with you as a company and not directly just with the consultant, as we are a subsidized service for you. These are some of the examples of companies that we've helped. Most of these I've been involved in helping as well to secure funding. And now a bit generally about the EU funding available for SMEs. I mean, Nadine has talked a lot about what is available through Horizon, and we've also heard what is available through the EIT network. And this is just a glance of those that are particularly targeting SMEs. And as you can see, the programs are at different levels from a TRL perspective. And it is fairly common that a company gets involved earlier with a specific project, for example, gets granted for Pathfinder, then a transition afterwards, and then goes on to an EIC Accelerator. It is also fairly common that a company for a specific product first conducts a Eurostars for lower TRL levels and then maybe applies for EIC Accelerator. So TRL levels is quite important to keep in mind when you look at these funding opportunities. However, based on the applications that we've seen and what has been granted, it is not necessarily just the TRL level. And I believe that the main focus should be about what is the funding trying to achieve, try and understand the background of that funding, and also do consider that the higher you go on the TRL levels, the more you need to be able to motivate as well that you are ready for this from a business perspective, both in terms of the innovation, but you as a company. We see a lot of companies contacting us where they have thought through the technology progress, but they need more work to prepare the business side. And there we're happy to help to some extent as well. But obviously there's a big network of business development support available as well. And again, as I said, it's important to consider why this funding is available and what the purpose is. So for example, from an accelerator perspective, they are seeking high risk and high potential projects, and they're also seeking projects or product services or business models that are trying to disrupt a market or targeting an emerging market. So timing is very important there. It is also good to be aware that the probability rate for the Eic Accelerator is around 4 to 5%, and it seems to be dropping slightly. So this is a very difficult call to pass. Eurostars, on the other hand, which is more about international collaboration, where you can motivate that you as an SME have a strengthened opportunity to progress your product or to get closer to a market through a collaboration, and you're developing some new knowledge together with an international partner. In those instances, this is slightly lower TRL level, but the probability rate is around 20%, and in some deadlines it's been up to 30%. So that's quite useful to think about when you choose which type of funding that you want to progress with. And now just a general overview of Eurostars, and then we'll do a general overview of EIC Accelerator as fast as possible. So Eurostars, as I said, the purpose is international collaboration. You need to show that that collaboration really is making a difference to you, and you as the SME needs to show that the project is for you, i.e. the commercial benefits of that project will go to you. That doesn't mean that other partners that are engaged cannot have their own commercial strategies, if you like, in this project, but you need to be clear that the main purpose is for you as the lead SME applying for this, so that you benefit mainly from this project. It can also be good to know that a typical Eurostars, many people believe, is an SME and maybe a research entity in a different country. And that's not necessarily always the case. You can also collaborate with a different SME, and you can also collaborate with a large enterprise in another country. It's also useful to know that if many companies come to us and think that they should be the lead applicant, but after a while finding different partners, it results in an application with another SME in another country is the lead applicant, but you somehow benefit from that collaboration. So you can have different strategies when you engage in a Eurostars project. The criteria are that the SME is the project leader, or there is an SME that is a project leader. And before, there's been a lot of focus on that the SME is an R&D performing SME. Now they have lowered that from what I understand, but you need to show that you're doing some type of development within your company. So you're not like a consulting company, for example. You need to have a minimum of 2 applicants from 2 Eureka countries. And the partners, as I said, can be industrial research institutes or universities. And the funding is quite beneficial. You can get a maximum of 75% total grant, depending on how you collaborate with other partners. And all partners in Sweden, if you collaborate with another partner in Sweden, together you can have a max funding of 5 million Swedish crowns, and a total project can have a total funding of 5 million euros across all participants. And the maximum length of a Eurostars is 3 years, but it does not have necessarily to be that long. You choose how long you would like it to be. You also need to be aware that in Sweden, if you apply for Eurostars project, you need to be able to show that you have capital in the company or a turnover that you can meet 50% co-funding that is required of your own budget in that project. And since recently, Vinnova also requires that you need to have at least 2 years of annual reports, so you cannot be a newly formed company. The main focus for Eurostars is not just the TRL levels, it's the international collaboration, it's the fact that you're benefiting from this collaboration, and also you need to show that you believe that within 2 years of finishing this project, you will be able to have something on the market or initiate clinical trials. So it's the end point that is very much the focus and not just the technology readiness level threshold. And we have some upcoming deadlines, the July one, which is maybe a bit close, but also in September. And for Eurostars, when you choose a country, it is not just the EU countries, there are also associated countries, and you see the list of countries here. And we would like to raise also to the attention that you need to think about which partner you choose, but also from which country they are. One of the reasons is here on the slide, because there's rules about how you set up a consortium, but also we would recommend that you're smart thinking through whether the chosen partner in that country has a high probability to get their share of the project funded. And that is because Eurostars is judged, evaluated centrally. However, the funds, the budget are managed on a national level. So each country may have their own criteria and also have different sizes of budgets. And I think it's very important if you start to negotiate with partners in other countries for a Eurostars project that they really check whether they meet the criteria in their own country, but also what is the probability of getting funding in that country. So the evaluation process is fairly simple. There are external reviewers that seek a consensus decision. And as said before, you need to, when you apply, you need to show that you're meeting the Vinnova criteria in Sweden, i.e. 2 years of annual reports and a capital or turnover that meets the co-funding requirement. And once the decision is made that you get a ranking, and the ranking is sent to the national bodies, and then the ranking is used to allocate funds from the budget that is set. So even if you get a high ranking, if there is not that much budget left, that could mean that you do not necessarily get the funding in that specific deadline. That is why, again, it's very important to check beforehand the country's different setups for budgets. Switzerland, for example, is one country where they typically have quite large budgets, and so many projects get granted on that basis if they get ranked well. And here are some parts that are being evaluated. As I said before, the consortium, because this is a collaborative project, the consortium is very important to show why you need this cooperation, and also how you have drawn the commercial rights within this collaboration, so that all of that is prepared before you send them the application. You need to also show that you have a realistic and clearly defined project plan, and most importantly, as said before, that within 2 years you have some plan that this will be on the market, or you can initiate clinical trials. So you have an end goal in mind. And here's just some examples of success cases that we have been involved in. And also there is a dashboard where you can go in and search for different projects to see what others have received funding for, maybe some ideas. Now the EIC Accelerator, which is on slightly higher TRL levels, this is high potential and high risk projects from TRL 6 onwards. where you can seek quite large amounts of money. So you need to show as well that you have a project that requires quite large funding compared to Eurostars. You can seek up to 2.5 million euros for the grant and up to 15 million euros for an investment part. And an EIC Accelerator is typically around 1 to 2 years long. Again, the probability here is quite low. So you need to think through whether you really have what is needed, and that is the high risk, high potential, something that will create a new market or disrupt a market. Timing is very important in EIC Accelerator, and we see that ones that have passed have had a good story around why their particular innovation is just right to accelerate now, to get a global reach. For both Eurostars and EIC Accelerator, you also need to show that you're addressing an international global market, and that is your long-term strategy. EIC Accelerator is increasingly more focusing on deep tech or technological breakthroughs and science. And because obviously you need large funds, it's a typical program for companies that need large capital to take their product further, such as medtech and life science. The funding that is provided as an investment is as patient capital and quite a passive investor. So they are there to support you, and they are there to link you to other investors as well. And it is possible to apply for this if you have, for example, one investor already, but that cannot meet your overall capital requirement. So there's a lot of willingness to collaborate there. This is just a summary of the calls in the 21-22 program. I advise you as well to read this program to understand a bit about the background of the EIC program overall, and also look at the challenges. Even if the challenges are not an EIC Accelerator, there's 2 challenges related to healthcare there in green at the end, at the bottom of the slide. Pharmaceutical industry to ensure security of supply, and also one focusing on cell and gene therapies. But I think it's wise as well to look at the other challenges in relation to health for EIC Pathfinder and Transition, which is lower TRL level, but also gives a bit of an indication of areas that are of interest for the program. Again, you can apply for an EIC Accelerator for grant only, or you can apply for a grant up to TRL level 9 and an investment for the activities beyond that. That is called blended, and that is the most common application form we have seen so far. You can also apply for invest only, which is very unusual, and you can apply for grant first, which means that you will just take the grant and you will decide later what to do. So you have an opportunity later to get the investment part. And as I said before, the investment part is patient capital, and they're looking at a long-term perspective, and they are a passive investor, very willing to help you to secure other funds as well. The application process for EIC Accelerator is in several steps compared to Eurostars, which is 1 step. And you have an AI form first, where you just put in details about your innovation. Then if you get granted to next step, you supply a short application with a pitch and 3-minute simple video. It does not have to be a production, just a simple video presenting the team. The focus at the start is the innovation, more increasingly in the application process on the market potential. And at the very end, if you supply a full application, you will be invited for a pitch and an interview where you pitch for 10 minutes and you're in a QA session for 35 minutes. And there the focus is on the team, the credibility of the team, whether you can take this product all the way. And the reviewers at the final stage, the Q&A, are often with investment background. So you need to bear that in mind if you initiate this application process. You do not have to have everything in place when you start, but think about the fact that once you get to the very end, you need to have all these things in place. There are no deadlines for the first 2 steps, the discovery diagnostic modules or the short application. All the deadlines relate to the full application. If you get granted the short application, you have 12 months to apply for a full application. So you have time, and this can take a long time. Also, if you have asked for investment equity, then obviously there is a due diligence process, and that may mean that it takes a while before the project starts. If you get a short application granted, you also get 3 days free business advisory services, and these are external consultants, typically with big networks and a lot of experience within your industry. And they are there to support you with the application, not writing it, but perhaps helping you reach the end goal, but also to help you from a business development perspective. And you also, by the time of full application, you will need to make sure that you have a freedom to operate, because that's required at that stage. The evaluation areas, as you see on the screen, are several, and they change during the process. So again, it's the innovation at the start, then it's more about the market and impact, and at the end, it's very much focused on the team and the credibility of the team and the milestones that you've set for your company. Here are some examples again, most of which that we have been involved in. Companies in Sweden.
I think we must
okay.
This. Yeah.
I will go to the very end then.
Yeah, thank you.
So these are the differences between the IC and the Accelerator. Have a think about which one you choose, and contact us if you are choosing and if you need to prepare an application, and we will help you, advise you to find the right one. And also the last slides I just want to show is we get a lot of companies that contact us with ideas, but you need to be clear that these 2 particular funding opportunities are for companies that are really trying to address a global market and have had some thoughts already put into how to commercialize this and how to prepare the regulatory strategy. So these 2 calls are not research calls. They are there to kind of accelerate SMEs. So that's good to keep in mind. So thank you very much for that. Sorry for taking so much time. Please feel free to welcome us at any point, preferably through the EU SME website, and also follow us on LinkedIn on updates relating to funding for SMEs. Thank you. Sorry, Mona.
Thank you very much, Carolina. I do think we should have some time for a question to Nadine and Caroline. Unfortunately, the EIT Health Per and Caroline, they're already left. But if you have any questions for Nadine and Carolina, please raise your hand. Press the reaction and raise hand before we stop. I see Caroline. Caroline Sai, you're back. Internet is working in France again.
Oh God, can you believe? And we're in Paris. I do apologize. The whole building was down. I'm finally back. Sorry about that.
So we're just making some conclusions here. Anyone attending have a question? It doesn't seem that way. I think what's important now, it's a ton of information, but the important thing is that you have identified the point of entry where you can get in contact with these individuals that could help you further in the process to reaching these different kinds of funding that is available through EIT Health and through Horizon Europe. Let's see.
Please, Nadine, I saw you wrote something. Please tell everyone.
Yes, Nadine.
Don't worry. I was just referring to some of the people attending that mentioned they work in the space of cancer. And one option we haven't talked about today is, of course, the mission on cancer. So feel free to have a look at that as well. I mean, this will be a little bit wider calls, and they will be a little bit different from the cluster calls. But since the mission is meant to work deliberately close to implementation, I think your participation is crucial. And we'll soon from Vinnova's side also host an info meeting. We haven't set a date yet, but as soon as that date will be set, you can find it in our calendar. And of course, we'll also inform, for instance, Mona and Carolina about it, so you can also get information on the date that way. So that was actually all. I was just referring a little bit to who's attending. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. I think it's time to wrap up, and we will distribute all the presentations, or we will post them on the web on medtechforhealth.se. And I would like to thank you very much, Nadine, Caroline, and Carolina for presenting, and Per, of course. And thank you all for attending. And I'll see you again soon, hopefully.